Hey guys, what's up? It's Olivia. Welcome back to Olivia's grad school vlogs. Today I'm going to talk to you about what PhD open house is like. Now here at Penn State we had the PhD open house last weekend, so it would have been good for me to upload this 2 weeks ago. I'll just tell you what open house is like, because if you're going to another program's open house and you have no clue what to expect, I would have wanted this video last year, so I decided to just make it now. So if you're new to my channel, then welcome. Let me introduce myself real quick. So my name's Olivia. I'm a first-year master's student here at Penn State in the Belisario College of Communications. My degree program is a master's in media studies, and I study media effects and media psychology. However, a little over a year ago, when I was applying to graduate programs, I was applying to PhD programs in industrial and organizational psychology, and then mass communications / media effects. And so even though I am a master's student, I was invited to a few open houses, and then I attended the Penn State open house for PhD students. Typically master's programs don't really have open houses, and it's kind of a whole nother story why I ended up going to the PhD open house and applied for a PhD program even though I'm a master's student. So we're not going to go into that now, but just know that I've attended a PhD open house. So everything that I say is going to be pretty specific to Penn State, since that is my experience with open houses. Of course, every program is going to be different depending on the school, as well as if this is communications or engineering or psychology, etc. So just kind of take this with a grain of salt, and hopefully this will give you a brief idea and overview of what you should expect. So first of all, what even is an open house? So if you're applying to PhD programs, once you go through the application process, possibly an interview over Skype or the phone, maybe not, you might get invited to an open house. So this is where programs actually have students come out and meet their faculty, check out the school, have interviews with them in person and one-on-one. Now some schools accept you first and then invite you to open house. So that's how University of Michigan is, as well as Cornell. With other schools, it's part of the application process. So with University of Tulsa and Penn State, those are two schools where it's still part of your application process. So you're interviewing them and they're interviewing you while you're on this open house. So it just depends. It's usually at the end of the week, maybe going into the weekend. So here at Penn State, the open house starts on a Thursday evening, is all day long Friday, and then exit interviews on Saturday morning. So by the time it's like 11ish or so, then you're free to go and travel and get back home, etc. Now, a couple important things real quick about the open house before I actually go over the itinerary, so you know what to actually expect. One, dress business casual. This is a time where you're interviewing people, they're interviewing you, so dress business casual for most of the weekend, unless they explicitly say, hey, tomorrow morning during the exit interviews it's casual dress. Then you can wear your jeans and your nice sweater and things like that. Next, really important, make sure you have a 1-minute elevator pitch of what you want to study, what your research interest is, what you're interested in. And then also, if you're currently in a master's program, make sure you're able to talk about your master's thesis, how far along you are with the process, if you're seeing results, without having to give a 10-year explanation of this is what I'm studying and these are the moderators and here's my experimental design, etc., etc., etc. As well as if you've worked on any projects that have been published, again, be able to give a 1-minute elevator pitch of what it is that you did. So here at Penn State, the first night starting at about 5 o'clock, we have a panel. So we have a couple of different graduate students, like a first year, second year, third year, and fourth year graduate student, and they talk about how to have a wonderful first year as a PhD student. So this is just kind of an intro to how the weekend's gonna be, so you can start seeing faces of the program, see if they're people that you're gonna get along with, and start getting a vibe for what the program is like. One of the most important things that the moderator last year said at the very beginning, I want you guys to keep this in mind, is if you're invited to open house, you're meant to be there. There's this thing called imposter syndrome where you feel like you're just not qualified to be there, you feel like an imposter, you feel like at any moment someone's going to realize that you're not smart enough to be there, you're not qualified to be there. But if you've been invited to an open house, that means that the committee is impressed with you, it means they want to see more from you, they want to learn more about you. So don't feel discouraged. I know for us, Beforehand, we're emailed the itinerary as well as the list of the bios from all of the people in attendance at the open house, and it can be really intimidating because there are people who have years of research experience or applied experience, or they got their master's and then taught for 10 years at a university and are back, or maybe they've gone through school super fast and they're just impressive in other ways. And so it's really easy to compare yourselves, but remember, like, I mean, it's sort of a competition, but at the same time, like, it's gonna work out how it's supposed to. So relax, you're meant to be there. So for us, after the panel, which is about like an hour and a half or so, then we split off and different grad students were sent to different places to have dinner with different faculty and grad students. So at all of the meals that you have, at least at our program, except for breakfast, I believe, but there's gonna be a mix of potential new PhD students. I almost said PNM, which if you've done sorority recruitment, like, you know what I'm talking about, but potential new PhD students, current graduate students, as well as faculty members. And they usually try their best to group you with people that they know like suit your interests and are studying similar things, but that doesn't always happen. So if you're studying media effects and you get put with people who are journalism or telecommunications or something like that, like, that's still a valuable experience to learn about what is this program researching and like what are these professors like, etc. It's typically the first night at open house. So you jump in, you do that, it's kind of low-key a little bit, and then the next morning is when it's crazy, like 12 hours of being around people and being turned on. And that's the thing, it's a really rough weekend because so much information is thrown at you. You're also trying to tell people about yourself. You have to be social, you have to be turned on the entire time. It's a lot, but just power through. You're gonna make it. So for us anyway, the next morning they have breakfast for an hour, and then we go to either interviews with individual faculty, which they set up beforehand, again based on your interest and your experience, or a campus tour. So for us, the campus tour isn't like a Penn State campus tour. My God, I cannot even imagine how many hours that would take. It's like here's our building, here's the library, here's where we get food. Like, it's not crazy long, especially because open houses happen in like February and March typically. You know what it looks like in February and March? Snow. There is like at least 8 inches of snow outside on my balcony right now. I really need to go brush off my car before it rains and turns into ice. But yeah, it's snowing, so they're not gonna try to keep you out too long. So with individual interviews with faculty, there can be between like 15 to 20, 25 minutes. And again, this is kind of gonna be like you're telling them what you're interested in, but at the same time, y'all, make sure you research the faculty beforehand. Don't go into it blind. Like, who is Dr. Mary Beth Oliver? I don't even know what she studies. Like, you should be reading their bios on the website. At least look at some of the art, like do a Google Scholar search, see what are some of the things that they've been researching recently. Read an article or two. You don't want to go into it blind. You don't have to like memorize them, but at least have an idea of who you're going to see. And again, here's where it's really important that you have elevator pitches of what you're interested in and any projects you've worked on. If you worked in a research lab at all, make sure you're able to sum up what you were working on in like a minute or so. And also make sure you like act interested. Like, you know, hopefully you're there, you want to be in the program. During the time when you're interviewing faculty members, I would say this is not the time to ask them like, so where do grad students typically live in State College? Like, no. Save that for the time when you're interacting with the other graduate students. And again, this is going to be at meals, during campus tour. There are several times where grad students are either like taking you from you know, your faculty meetings like all over the place, who are taking you to any other place on campus like a research lab or anything. You might have a few minutes one-on-one with the grad students. That's the time to ask them, how do you like being a student here? How do you like living here? Are you able to live off of your stipend? Is there opportunity for grad students to hop on lots of different projects, or do you typically only work with your advisor, etc.? But do know that, again, you're always on. So if you're talking with a grad student one-on-one, you should not be like, ugh, I didn't even want to come to Penn State. My parents forced me to come to this open house. Like, I don't even want to be here right now. Like, no. Like, yes, you can be more casual and be like, okay, for real, like, how do you like it here? But don't bash the program, because again, they can then tell the graduate committee, hey, this person seemed a little off. They said like they already hated our program, like just so you know. Okay, so again, Friday's typically our busy day, so breakfast followed by interviews or tours, and then from about 10:45 to noon here, and again, schedules can change from year to year, just so you know, and this is also this program specifically, but we actually have them sit down in like a conference room, and different faculty come in and talk about the different research groups and research labs that we have here. So mine's a communications program, and so we have everything from media effects, studying virtual reality and artificial intelligence, to people studying the ethics of journalism, and telecommunications and the digital divide and things like that. So there's a lot in our program, so we learn about all of that. And then after that, for like an hour and a half, then it's lunch. So again, you're at a table with usually faculty members, other potential PhD students, and then current graduate students. And at this point is when faculty actually go up and talk about their research interests a bit and about their research, etc. So at this point, you know, you're getting a good idea of what people are even studying in the program. After that, something I think is really cool that they do here at the open house is they actually have current PhD students give presentations on some of the research that they've done. It's just really exciting. So do that for a couple hours, and then back to more interviews. If you didn't have your interviews in the morning, then you might have your interviews in the afternoon. So by that time, after the interviews, it's about 5 p.m. And then at that point is where here personally, we take students over to the media effects research lab. And that's a really big deal here at Penn State. It's actually getting renovated really soon, but it used to be where that is at. The grad student offices are under there as well, so at some point you should be shown where grad student offices are too. So they go to that presentation for like an hour and a half. They see the different equipment that we have, as well as some of the research coming out of that lab group. After that, they have a break for 30 minutes. I don't actually know if it ends up being a 15-minute break or if they get a 30-minute break to go back to their room or what. So yeah, it's a long day. Wear comfortable shoes, but like be business casual and be on the whole day too. So after that, then it's dinner. So this is the last event of the night. Let me see what time this technically says. So it just says 7. I want to say it went till about 9 earlier this week. So as a student this year, I helped with taking students from faculty meetings in the afternoon, and then also taking them to the Media Effects Research Lab, which is downtown right now, which it won't be next year, but anyway. And then I was also able to actually go to the dinner, so got a free meal out of it, which is pretty dang cool. At this point, we know that you're exhausted. We all remember that point where we were like, oh my goodness, I cannot socialize a minute more. But the faculty and the other grad students are really great, and again, it's mostly just you repeating what your research interests are for like the millionth time that day. But yeah, it's a good time, and then here you're free to go after that. And then the next morning is like casual dress, so again, like jeans, sweater, boots, whatever, and the exit interviews. So I remember at the exit interviews, it was with either the assistant dean or the director of graduate programs. And so they asked us like, what'd you think about it? Like, is there anything we can improve on? What other schools are you considering? Where does Penn State rank in those other schools? What would it take to get you here? Do you think you would like it here at Penn State? And here is where you can ask any questions that you weren't able to ask before. You know, again, I would say when you're meeting with grad students is when you want to ask about like housing or driving versus taking the bus, balancing your time. You know, do you feel like graduate students are able to handle, you know, all the work we have and the assistantship, as well as maintaining like a social life and being able to sleep and be healthy and things like that. That's something I have to ask the graduate students. But at the end, if there is a burning question you have, like one thing I asked them, I was like, okay, I just want to know, like, is this area safe? Is State College safe? They're like, yes, State College is safe, you know, etc. So it's something like that. Like, I think that's fine to say, but I wasn't about to ask him, like, where do grad students typically live? Like, no, that's not really a question to ask at the end. Also on that day, after the exit interviews or like during breakfast around that time, that's when they told us about information of like the health insurance that graduate students get, what the stipend is like, how many months of the year you get the stipend, in terms of taking summer classes or doing a summer program or getting summer funding, like how all of that stuff works. So if at the end of Friday you still have questions, there's a good chance, like logistics questions, there's a good chance they're going to answer that on Saturday morning, at least at our open house. So that's what the open house itself is like. As far as funding it and how you pay for it, here at Penn State they completely reimburse you. So I didn't have to pay up front for my flight. However, the hotel, like the college booked it automatically. I didn't even have to book anything. So they did that and they paid for it. And they also paid for like my meals that I had at the airport. So they completely reimbursed me on that. Other programs, for example, at University of Tulsa, they were going to reimburse me like a certain amount for flights. It was something like we'll pay up to like $200 to cover plane tickets and such for if you have to drive. And then there actually the option was you could stay with a current graduate student in their apartment, or you could get a hotel, and if you got a hotel they would cover like 50% of it or something like that. I don't quite remember. And then another PhD program was like, yeah, you can come out and fly out, but we're not reimbursing you, kind of a thing. So it really depends on the program if they reimburse you or not, or if they cover so much of it or not, but they will be upfront about that when you get the initial email about attending an open house. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea about how to prepare for an open house, what you might expect. Or if there's anything dire that you forgot to ask, you can always send emails afterwards. But really, like, you're interviewing them, they're interviewing you. Don't be afraid. Like, you're meant to be there. It's all good. If you have any other questions, feel free to put it in the comment section below. If you're attending an open house coming up, let me know what kind of program you're looking into. Like I said, I applied to IO psychology programs, media effects / mass communication programs. I almost applied for a creative writing program. Yeah, I was all over the place last year, but I'm very happy I chose Penn State. I'll probably do a video later about why I chose Penn State and why I love it so much and why it was definitely the best decision for me. But yeah, I hope this helps. Hope you have a wonderful day. Keep dreaming out loud. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, and I will see you guys next time.